What's up, guys? You know, several years ago, about a couple months ago, I did a web recommendation. Excuse me. I did a web recommendation on two people at DeviantART, Mr. Internet Man and minor-alterations. And one of the things I think I talked about was, minor-alterations. There's a series of stories based around shape-shifting, melting, you name it, whatever. And of course I've talked about Mr. Internet Man before, and I mentioned basically as a web recommendation in the past, his Mystic Makeover series. Well, one of the things I talked about, I believe, in the video where I recommended minor-alterations along with Mr. Internet Man, was the fact that they were kind of collabing together on a new little series. This series was named after Mr. Internet Man's original character, Demonica, who, long story short, in case you guys don't know, is the alter ego of a college student named Veronica, who ends up mysteriously getting a package that contains a lipstick called Nightshade, and when she applies it, she ends up becoming the alter ego, the mischiefy demon elf with a good heart, a good kind heart, but a mischiefy streak, called Demonica, who has the power to shapeshift herself into anything or anyone she wants, has the power to melt down into a puddle of ooze, remain that way, become a goop of slime, and is able to clone herself. In other words, she's able to create copies of herself, and thus through these copies she's also able to make these other characters come to life. Like she's able to create a sultry character named Monica, and then she's able to create two versions of that. So yeah, she basically has the power to, like I say, do anything, be anything, you name it. Along the lines, Mr. Internet Man also created another character called Rebecca, who ended up getting the same powers that Veronica did, and thus her alter ego is a sky blue haired mischiefy demon elf, again with a good heart, called Exotica. And he's done stories with them where they've crossed over, they've had fun with each other. Heck, they've even fused a couple of times together to become someone new. In fact, the first time they fused was just experimental, where they were both kind of in control. They both were, within this new body that they had fused into. They were both, like I said, they were both in control. They were both existing in this body that they combined together to become. And then the next time he did this was another story that was a little bit different when it came to the fusing of these two characters, and they ended up creating a new character called Angela, who was a little bit more of the opposite of what Veronica and Rebecca and of course their alter egos Demonica and Exotica were. I mean, according to what Internet Man had told someone that made a comment, was Angela, the other fused form of Rebecca / Exotica and Veronica / Demonica. He said basically that Angela was narcissistic, self-centered, vain, and just all about herself. And that's about it. And the way you knew this, and the way you knew about this, was the fact that she didn't refer to herself as two different people. She just referred to herself as I. I mean, there is a part in that webcomic where she kind of says, hey, I hope those two didn't make any plans because I'm going to be here for a while. Well, anyway, to say that this didn't catch the attention of minor-alterations is to say something. I mean, it's caught the attention of a lot of people, believe it or not. So he decided to go, minor-alterations decided to go and take it upon himself and collab with Mr. Internet Man on this Demonica series that he's doing. In the series, he introduced a new character called Ruby Walker, who is kind of an investigator, detective, police person. And long story short, by getting close to this Ruby Walker, Demonica is able to open up a side of Ruby that Ruby didn't know she had or didn't want to bring out. So yeah, that's mainly what the story is, especially when you get to the last 2 chapters of the story, part 4 and part 5. You start seeing in part 3 and a little bit of part 2, but mostly in part 3, you start seeing Ruby Walker become more acceptive of what Demonica has to offer, and sees that Demonica doesn't have anything. Doesn't have anything. You know, what I'm trying to say is, she finds out that Demonica doesn't have any ill will towards her. Is not planning to harm her or, you know, dupe her or deceive her or whatever. She just wants to be her friend, be a close friend of hers, and help her open up a side of herself that she's not had before, or she's never knew she had, and if she did, she's kept hidden deep inside. And like I said, when you get towards part 3 in this story, you start seeing that happen. You start seeing Ruby become more receptive of what Demonica is giving her, and kind of being more receptive and understanding and willing and more trustworthy of Demonica, because she sees that, yes, like I said, Demonica doesn't mean any ill will. And so, like I said, you start seeing that progression more so in part 3, and then you really see it take off in part 4, especially like towards the end. And then part 5 is just like, you know, bang-a-rang all the way around town, if you know what I mean, when it comes to them, because basically, in between the chapters, minor-alterations made a it's in the same context, but it's kind of its own self-contained story. It's called Demonica Matter of Style, or Demonica Quickie, a Matter of Style, where she's able to she's letting Ruby borrow one of her outfits that she likes to change into every now and then, which is a Catwoman-like costume. Now, part 5 also takes place, like I said, and then after that we get part 5. And what's funny is these stories, the Demonica Quickie, A Matter of Style, and now part 5, are actually based on some concept art, or not concept art, but based on art, webcomic art that Mr. Internet Man made in response to what minor-alterations had created. So, long story short, in this 5th chapter, Demonica decides to give Ruby a little bit more of what she's about. She's basically allowing Ruby to experience more about what she's about. So, to get to the point, she basically encases Ruby within herself. In other words, because she has the power and ability to do and be anything she wants, she becomes like some kind of coating, if you will, that goes over Ruby, kind of temporarily puts her to sleep, or as it's mentioned in the story, she basically reduces Ruby's molecules and body into goo within her. And this is, and she uses that goo that Ruby has become to add to the mass, and she's able to become a little bit more powerful. And basically, you got to read the story yourself, but it really, like I said, it's like bang-a-rang around the town kind of deal when it comes to the story. Basically, a bit of spoilers, Demonica and Ruby fuse together into one, if you will. Well, kind of fused. Like I said, Ruby's kind of sounds like temporarily broken down, molecularized into this gooey substance that adds to Demonica's substance. They spend most of the story as a puddle of goo slithering around the town, out and all that, just letting loose and everything, because that's one of the main primaries about the story is Demonica. She's always careful about not to let herself loose, but she sees an opportunity she can't pass up, and she just gives herself to this this extremeness or this wildness that is the liquid goo, and the rest is history. But I do highly recommend you guys read the Demonica miniseries that is still ongoing by minor-alterations at DeviantART. It's very good. It's a very interesting story. There's more to it than you think, and I think a lot of you guys will really get a kick out of it. You'll get a few laughs and stuff, and and basically you can let your mind kind of imagine, what's going on in your head, kind of draw the pictures in your head about what's going on. But the reason I recommend this is because I've spoken with minor-alterations. I've spoken with Mr. Internet Man, and basically the plans are to expand beyond this, this Demonica thing, the Demonica series. The plan is to make more in-depth stories, I guess. Basically get more character development added in there. And I would assume if the Demonica miniseries, this 5-part, maybe 6-part miniseries, if they add another part, that is the introduction, because it is labeled under the introduction and chapters category on DeviantArt. If this is the beginning, then I can only imagine what the rest of the series and stories and events are going to be like. I mean, I can imagine possibly Ruby admitting, in the next story that she enjoyed what happened, but then hearing about the reports about this and that and everything, and kind of maybe sitting down and talking to Demonica and be like, look, I enjoyed what you did. I'm happy you gave me this opportunity. You gave me this gift, but maybe you need to be a little bit more careful and all that. I could see, and I've even said this to minor-alterations and Mr. Internet Man, I could see a lot of things happening. They've told me, well, they're just going to play it by ear, and we as an audience have to wait and see what they have in store, and I'm patient about that. I really am, because I can't wait to see what they're going to do next. But I could definitely see maybe a situation to where part of the combined, fused, slimy, goopy body that Ruby and Demonica were, I can imagine maybe a substance of it gets contained maybe by the forensics lab at the police station or wherever, and they examine it, and then they see within this goop is the DNA of Ruby Walker. I could see a scenario down the line, if they want to create more in-depth stories and character development, where she gets questioned by her superiors, asking them, why was your DNA found in this stuff? You better start talking. And that can lead to something else in the future as well, from a character developing and storytelling perspective. Because I think, honestly, when I look at Mr. Internet Man's stories, and in my opinion, I think minor-alterations feels the same way, it seems kind of dumb at times that not a lot of people know that know about Veronica, that when she disappears, all of a sudden here comes this mischievous demon-like character that people seem to eyewitness or something like that, or something happens and Veronica's not there, but then all of a sudden here come these other people, these other women. So I think honestly what we got here in the 5th part, and I don't know if there's going to be a 6th part, but I do look at the fact that we're going to get more out of this, and I think this is just the beginning, and I got a feeling they're going to really capitalize on it, because there's just so many scenarios going on, too many questions going on, that if you leave them unanswered without any other new characters brought in to kind of like be like, what's going on, maybe even, like I said, maybe capture a substance of Demonica and of the fused body, I should say, of both of them, and then see the DNA of Ruby in there and then question her, try to figure out what's going on. If they don't capitalize on answering those questions for any of the bystanders in the story, or any eyewitnesses, even the police department, whatever, it's going to make them all look dumb, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's going to make them all look dumb, and you don't want that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they got next, and I highly recommend, again, guys, I highly recommend that you all check this story series out. It's really good. It's really good. It's really fun. You could definitely tell that they put a lot of effort into this. Part 5 was more like just a let loose, let anything kind of go kind of part of the story. So, and I think minor-alterations did that because now they're gonna probably focus more on, like I said, the character development and stuff, and go from there. So, that's really all I could say, guys, on minor-alterations and the Demonica series. I highly recommend you guys check it out. You'll enjoy it. You'll get a kick out of it. You might, and who knows, maybe it might inspire you to take on your own projects in the long run. Here, in closing, I'm hoping that someone in web animation or something like that takes a look at what minor-alterations is doing with the story, takes a look at what Mr. Internet Man's doing with the characters, and says, you know what, that has the potential for an adult cartoon or an adult series, maybe on Netflix, Amazon. Let's go for it. Let's test it out and see what happens. Hopefully this might lead to something. We can only hope. We can only pray and wonder. So, but I do highly recommend you guys check out the Demonica series. It's still ongoing. Again, I don't know if they got a 6-part coming, but this is just right now the introduction start of it, because obviously there's going to be a lot more to come in the future. So I'll provide a link down below, but check it out yourselves, guys, and I will talk to y'all later.